If you're looking for a job in 2025 as a PM, this is what you can expect right now in the market. Inside the Product Career Accelerator, we work with hundreds of product managers, and we get a lot of different offers. We get a lot of different interviews, so we get a broader sense of what's actually happening in the market, especially in top tech companies in the US today. If you're looking for your next role, by the way, you can schedule a time to speak with our team using the link in the description, because inside the Product Career Accelerator, this is exactly what we do. We work with proactive, experienced PMs to help them land their next high-paying top tech job. So in 2025, what are we seeing? Of course, we're seeing layoffs continue. However, in terms of interview scheduling, in terms of offers handed out and the numbers themselves, it's actually quite strong. 2025 is significantly stronger than 2024, which is in itself stronger than 2023, which is, of course, when we started to get that big wave of initial layoffs after the fantastic market from the perspective of product management, quantity, and compensation of 2020, pandemic and post-pandemic 2021. 2022, early 2023, the layoffs began. 2024, the market was rough, but we were still starting to see some traction in terms of interviews and offers. In 2025, that trend has largely continued. So people ask me, hey, Alex, how are things with product manager jobs? And I'm going to give you a few pointers of how you yourself can get a sense of how things are going. Go to LinkedIn, which is the place where probably 80 or 90% of product management roles are posted, and just type in product manager in the entire United States, or product manager in San Francisco, Seattle, New York, or your metro, and look at how many jobs were posted in the last 1 day, in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days, to give you a sense of the volume. So the volume is there. A lot of them are real jobs that are posted where people need product managers, because growth is continuing. Even though layoffs have happened, growth continues. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret, that even when companies do layoffs, they are still hiring new people, because guess what? Layoffs for companies, for tech companies, and really for any corporate big companies, are just a way to eliminate expenses, long-term expenses, short-term expenses, eliminate the expenses that are associated with personnel, and also get rid of people that are really not as much of contributors to the organizations, at least from the perspective of the organization. Obviously, mistakes are made, but by and large, I would imagine that 50% of the folks that are hit by layoffs either had bad performance reviews, or had maybe a lack of movement, or in other times it could be, of course, discrimination and all these other elements, ageism, etc., against parents, and all of these things could and do happen very often. But I think probably a big bulk of the layoffs are from people that have not done well in the company. Of course, anecdotally and experientially, we've all seen folks that have been rated as good performance, good ratings trajectory, still laid off. So it doesn't necessarily protect you from being laid off, but by and large, companies make the decisions where they say, hey, 50% of the decisions will be based on performance reviews, and then 50% will be discretionary based on managers making decisions and, let's say, having cuts everywhere. Who do you choose? So which person do you choose to let go on your team? So let's actually forget for a moment this the emotional part of the layoffs for a second, and just I want to explain to you how it works from a company's perspective. When they do this, they lose costs, so they drop costs. So there's an immediate benefit, and there's a longer term benefit in that they become more profitable. And usually these are public companies, so investors will reward them usually, because once you become more profitable, you become more lucrative as a stock. Therefore, stock goes up if it is seen as a better investment in the future. It also indicates something about being more fiscally conservative, which again, Wall Street generally tends to encourage. So it's kind of like a win-win for companies to do this. However, the downside is if suddenly you cannot bring on additional talent to do the things that you need, because you still need to power growth. You still need to run your products. You still need to compete. You still need to deliver results for that same Wall Street. So how do you do that? Well, they just keep on hiring. They do it usually for a month or so. They lay off the hiring, especially if it's a layoff that has not happened in a long time, like, for instance, the big tech companies did in 2022, 2023. But then within a month after that, you're hiring slowly, and then you ramp up to regular levels. And nowadays, when we're in the cycle of the layoffs expected territory, companies are just hiring all the time, even through the layoffs. So you might have Google, Facebook, Amazon announce layoffs, and in the same week, inside PCA, we will get callbacks for PM roles at those companies. So that is just the way things work. And I'm sorry if that does not align with your sensibilities, but I'm just trying to explain it to you from the company's perspective, from Wall Street perspective, so that you understand where the incentives actually are. So now that we know that layoffs themselves are not exactly connected to new hiring. New hiring is done when a company wants to figure out how it's going to return investor, how it's going to increase investor returns in the short and long term. So they want to hire product people because they think that product people can organize the rest of the cross-functional team together and deliver 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% growth year on year, the bottom line revenue. That's really how this thing works, is these companies generate a certain revenue and a certain profitability for their investors. Every year, they grow that revenue, they grow that profitability in order to meet or exceed investor expectations, in order to continue funding, in order to continue bringing in new investment, which appreciates the underlying stock, which returns more wealth into primarily the management and team leadership, but also the rest of the employees. So maybe we covered a little bit too much here, but all I'm trying to tell you is that product management is essential in order to bring new revenue for investor returns. So they're going to continue hiring product managers. Of course, as much as possible, they will leverage AI to try to get more efficiency out of all of their personnel, including product managers. And we'll talk about that in a separate video. But for now, just rest assured that the product manager job, especially in top tech, is not going anywhere. And we're seeing increases in the number of roles that are open. And you can just see it for yourself by just going on LinkedIn and tracking to see what's going on in terms of the number of jobs available. And then the second piece that I identified for you is that when we're entering a more fiscally conservative time, layoffs are expected. It's sort of the year of efficiency every year, like Meta and Amazon say. It's a boon for these companies, like we talked about, but the hiring will continue during times of layoffs. So this is just what we've seen. Layoffs announced, company hires. Google, Meta, Amazon, Stripe, DoorDash, Tesla, Lucid, the list goes on and on. These are offers that we've placed inside PCA, and this is something we see week in, week out. Now, in terms of the quality side of things, we know that the quantity is there. There are jobs available. So if you're looking for a new job, you should be able to have plenty of shots on goal, so to speak. You'll have plenty of roles to choose from. Yes, the competition could be broad and could be fierce, but that's why you have to put in additional effort, not just in the interview side of things, but also in the resume, outreach, networking, LinkedIn optimization, profile optimization, and of course, the behavioral story prep, interview preparation, negotiation, everything, the whole package. From a quality perspective, what we're seeing is compensation is still rising. We're getting offers for $400,000, $500,000, $700,000, $1 million opening offers for L5, L6, L7 PMs. Now, of course, this is top geographies, top companies, but nonetheless, we're seeing this growth. And yes, all of these offers are ones that we've personally seen. I've texted our PCA members about these offers to try to increase the offer. There's a lot of different techniques and elements that we can use to keep the conversation going, to keep the negotiation moving, and ultimately get much better outcomes than the initial offer. But from a quality perspective, we are still seeing a growth in compensation. So if you're in the bucket of PMs that are earning from $100,000 to $150,000, $200,000 a year, know that there is another bucket of PMs that are making $400,000 to $700,000 to $1 million a year, and who consider that the norm. They consider that normal and appropriate because that's the compensation range that is everywhere around. And the companies consider this normal and appropriate as well. So just like I don't want you to be oblivious to the fact that jobs are available, even though it feels like layoffs are everywhere, jobs are available. I want you to know this. The second thing I want you to know is that high compensation is also available. And the difference between PMs that are making $500,000 and $700,000 a year and PM that's making $150,000 at a startup is nothing. There's no difference. There's just a difference of you refusing to accept that that is the reality. I'm sure I'm going to get some comments on this or some DMs on this where people just don't believe me. And that's fine, but the point of this whole channel and our work that we do online is just to tell you, if you are a product manager, this is the reality. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.